Okay, guys, welcome once again. We're happy that you joined us. And as promised, today we will first talk a little bit about Hatha Yoga, what it is, what we mean when we say Hatha Yoga. And then I think we will take your questions.
Yes.
And after that, we'll say a few words about our yoga teacher training, right, that we're running. And that helps to, let's say, share this Hatha Yoga that we're talking about, right? So first of all, what is Hatha Yoga? And it's actually very simple because it's just yoga, but we had to come up with some new name because there are so many yogas that use that word, but essentially they are someone else is coming. But essentially, we could say they're not really yogas in terms of practice that was designed several thousands years ago and had very particular goals, right? So about 10 years ago, I started to think about that, and I was thinking of real yoga or true yoga. And then I saw that every other asana school would say real yoga or true yoga. And I realized that won't work. So Hatha Yoga is something that shows that it's kind of beyond what is usually called yoga. And it also refers to higher limbs of yoga. If we think of Ashtanga with Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, then Patanjali calls first 5 practices external, right? Or we could say inferior, and 3 remaining practices, essential practices, we could say Hatha Yoga or the essence of yoga. And in general, today, so that just you can understand that, today there are 2 yogas. And we could say there is yoga with a small y and there is yoga with a capital Y. And they are very different. They're very different, and from the practical point of view, the main difference is in goals. And of course, then when we have different goals, we have different methods, right? And we have different practices. So goals of yoga with a small y are short-term goals, right? We could say temporarily, let's say stress release, right? So you work in the office, then you go and you release that stress that you have accumulated, and then you go tomorrow back to work and you accumulate stress again, right? So it helps you to do that sort of stress relief, right? That temporarily. Then also short-term feel-good experience that is also very popular today, right? And perhaps that's what makes many people come back to those classes, because you really feel good after that, right? It doesn't mean that it will last long, but you're just coming for that feel-good experience, and that's what it offers, right? And some yogas that I still put in that yoga with a small y, they offer also some high, or let's say we could say peak experience. So you can breathe in a certain way, let's say do rebirthing or some kind of kundalini yoga that are mainly Yogi Bhajan's kundalini, and they're not really rooted in the tradition, right? So these these high peak experiences are also quite attractive, and many people come to get them. And of course, I don't mention like more, let's say, external results, like maybe keep some kind of shape, physical shape, maybe have some nice pictures on Instagram, maybe be healthier, right, more attractive. These are also offered by this yoga with a small y. And now, compared to this, yoga with a big Y, and this is what yoga actually is, and that's what we call high yoga. It offers long-term or even permanent paradigm shift or shift in consciousness that entails a whole new way of living, a whole new way of perceiving life, right? A whole new way of thinking. So I found a definition of the word paradigm, right? It's a distinct set of concepts or thought patterns. So when this shift happens, your thought patterns change forever. It's not that now when you did this or that practice, you think like this, but then when you go back to work or you go back to a family, or just the effect of your breathing or of your moving went away, your thinking changed. When this shift happens, it does not change, right? And that shift is known as awakening or enlightenment in the yoga tradition, and also liberation, because when this shift happens, we are free from suffering. Yeah, first of all, of course, emotional suffering. We all get old and maybe get some illness and die, but it can involve emotional suffering or not, right? So this kind of liberation, this and this liberation follows that awakening, that shift. So together with that yoga, we could say same thing about spirituality in general, that modern spirituality or new age spirituality, because unfortunately when people can't get these results from exercising, and it's kind of makes sense that how can you liberate from something just moving on a mat, like jumping around, or so obviously people can't get deeper results, but they are promised because it's yoga, right? So okay, where are results? And when people don't get these results, they start taking drugs, right? So that's how we get different psychedelics that are more and more popular, right? And other means of getting high and having some kind of experience of unity and etc., etc. But the problem is that then you come back, right? Again, short-term experience, which does not involve any shift in your awareness. So there is no paradigm shift. You're still having same thought patterns, you're still having same attitude. And maybe even if it changes a little bit, it doesn't have profound shift, right? And the main, let's say, nature of that shift is in realizing that our fundamental nature is consciousness. And this shift kind of takes time, but it's still not, not a lifetime. It can happen within a year or two if we do right practices. So the only reason it doesn't happen is that we don't do right practices. And guys, I promise, downward dog will not give you that result. It's just not possible, right? So we have that huge, incredible misalignment in modern yoga, because when we talk about yoga, we think of somehow spiritual practice and we expect some spiritual results. But the practices that we do, they cannot result in those things that are often discussed in yoga classes, or maybe you've read about it, or maybe you've heard about it, right? When you read about ancient yogis. But the secret is that they were not doing this yoga that we're doing today in studios. They were doing different yoga, right? That yoga with a capital Y, and or what we call Haya yoga, right? So I call this knowledge gap, right? Because there is some idea, there is some expected result, and there are practices that cannot deliver that result. So we kind of talk about spirituality, we talk about awakening, but we never get it, right? And if you ask people in studios why we're not getting it, right, then they will say maybe that you need to practice longer, or maybe they will say that humanity is accumulating potential and then we will all awaken together, or something like that. But it doesn't work that way. You either do the work and you get the result, or you don't do the work and then you don't get result, right? Same is everywhere. And we just need to follow the right path, and that path will take us to the destination, right? So of course this process is kind of challenging, because when I talk about paradigm shift, I mean change in your belief system, change in the way you react and act, the things that you value, right? So all this needs to be changed. And when even slightly these things are kind of touched from the outside, we become very defensive, right? Because they are what we think we are. This is what is called by ego. So if we want that shift, right, it is experienced as a sort of death of what you think you are. And one of the best analogies that comes to mind is caterpillar butterfly analogy. So as long as you're a caterpillar, you can talk about butterfly, you can maybe take some drugs that will make you feel as if you're a butterfly, or maybe you can even sit and imagine that you're a butterfly, but that's not being a butterfly, right? And when you die as a caterpillar, then you become a butterfly, and then there is no way back. Then you're just a butterfly, and it's that point where you can understand what is meant in the scriptures, what is meant by yoga, and where those yogis were aiming at, right? So this is the difference between these two yogas. So in order to make that shift happen, right, we need to work with consciousness, right? So we need to directly impact consciousness, not physical body, because maybe it's possible, but it's a really long way. Like through the physical body change consciousness, it will take a really long time. Now, I was recently thinking of that proverb that flexible body is flexible mind, or flexible mind, flexible body. It's not true, guys. If that was true, then all gymnasts would be having that flexible awakened minds, but that's not happening. So if you stretch yourself intensively, it doesn't mean that you'll stretch your mind in the same way, right? We just have to choose what is perhaps more important. And if we really want that shift, then we have to focus on that other yoga, other work, right? That will create that shift. So when now we think of that work, right, and how to do it, right? First of all, that is very important here is to base your practice on yoga texts, on scriptures. And this I see as another issue in modern yoga, because all usually teachers I meet and I hear books they recommend in yoga teacher trainings, mainly these are modern books, new age books. And of course, they are all written by people who are already kind of conditioned by that new, let's say, understanding of yoga, which was created and popularized by a group of Indian teachers in the end of 19th and beginning of 20th century, right? And then it was popularized, but we don't see that yoga in scriptures, right? So the results that we're expecting, they were promised if you do the yoga explained in scriptures. These results are not promised in scriptures if you just do exercises, right? Then it just does not come. So if we look at scriptures, and that's what we really try to do in our courses, we share practices from scriptures. And before giving practices, all scriptures share some philosophy. And this is another pillar in yoga practice and also in our course, because philosophy gives you that foundation. It gives you direction in which you need to be moving, right? So it's a sort of compass. And think of guitar. If you want to play guitar, you first need to tune it, right? You need to make it sound, every string should sound in a certain way, and then you can start playing it. Then you can start learning chords, right? Harmony, melody, and then you can try to do something. So all the techniques that are done, let's say pranayama, it's a chord. But if your guitar is not tuned, then it will sound awful, and most likely you won't get that result. So when you come to a musician and you want to learn music, you have to, kind of listen how they play, and if that sounds nice, then you can learn something. But if you come and you hear that, well, his or her guitar is not even tuned, or piano, or whatever it is, then why would you even learn from that, right? So the problem is that the new books, new age books, and most of the yogas that I found today, they don't train your consciousness, right, to be in a certain state, in a certain, they don't shape the view that will allow practices give results, right? So we really need to train ourselves to cultivate this certain view of life, and then the practices start giving results. And when we think of practices, then these are mainly breathing techniques and meditations. Yeah, that's what we find in texts. philosophy, right? So cultivating certain principles, and then some breathing, and then some meditation. When we say breathing, we don't really mean breathing techniques that can help you get high, like some kriyas in different Kundalini yogas. Mainly, we mean techniques that can really change the way your brain works, change your nervous system, and prepare it for meditation practice, right? So these are techniques that really work deeply on you, and then themselves, these techniques become meditations. So they're already part of meditation. When I say meditation, then I mean yogic meditations. First of all, and I don't really mean Vipassana meditations that are also very popular today. And when today we say meditation, we often think of Vipassana. Like when we say yoga, we think of someone in a, sporty clothes with a mat, doing asana. When we say meditation, we think of Vipassana. However, Vipassana was not really designed to serve same goals as tantric meditations, because Vipassana meditation or Buddhist meditation, they were mainly designed for renunciants. So for people who are not engaged in everyday life, who are not having families, businesses, who are not living in cities mainly, right? And of course, if you're living in the mountain and you don't see anyone and you don't have worries, preferably you live in a temple, so you don't even need to think of how to pay your bills, right? Then those techniques work, right? However, most people that practice yoga today, they're not living that lifestyle. So for this kind of people, and these are us, we have tantric meditations. And tantric view is different in a way that it kind of embraces all aspects of life. So that practice was especially designed for people that face, same things as we do in our day-to-day life, right? Not isolated. So these are meditations that we use, right? These are focusing techniques and awareness practices that we use, and we really think these are more effective for people like us, right? And that's why they can give better results. And maybe final thing I want to say before I give the mic to Christian is that today we're living in a very interesting time, let's say, when on the one hand, yoga that I just described seems to be dead, and no one is really maybe interested in it, or if someone is interested, it's not really taught out there. But on the other hand, we have more and more scholars that translate those original texts, and it becomes apparent that this yoga that was created by the group of Indian teachers in 20th century is not really that yoga with a capital Y. And the more texts we translate, the more it becomes obvious. Secondly, there is a big change in science, and Christian can say more about that, but it also shows us that those techniques that were designed thousands of years ago, they are super effective. They can really change the brain, and this awakening is not something mystical, it's very realistic. You just need to do it and make this shift happen, right?
So I want to talk a little bit about our program. Alex has kind of set the ground for our focus, and it's obvious our focus is on working with consciousness. Our focus is working with kind of the yoga tradition and what they call the root or core yoga texts. And these are texts not only from the classical yoga tradition of Patanjali, like the Yoga Sutras, which saw the world a little bit differently than the Tantric yogis. But Alex and I draw on both the classical yoga tradition and the Tantric yoga tradition to inform our teachings. So in our program, we have classic hatha techniques such as Uddiyana Bandha, and I teach a lot of pranayamas with the addition of bandhas, mostly as focusing techniques, as ways to bring our awareness inward and challenge our level of not necessarily body adaptation, but mental adaptation by adding more moving parts to basic breathwork techniques. We challenge the brain. We overload the brain with techniques. And this is exactly what we do in our 300-hour progression. We take what are very foundational yoga techniques that many of you have already learned in your 200-hour course, but then we connect them more strictly or more rigorously with how they were practiced in the tradition, because as Alex has rightfully known or mentioned, that modern yoga or modern postural yoga often overpromises and underdelivers. It promises the big liberation and the big enlightenments of classical yoga, but then it underdelivers because it doesn't give the true practices that we saw in the classical and tantric tradition. So this is what Alex and I have done, is we've gone back to the classics and we found exactly how they guided us to practice. And then we developed that practice into our 300-hour course. So the goals are the big goals of yoga, and the practices are the legitimate or the, let's say, refined practices of the classical and tantric tradition. Now, why is that important? And then why did Alex mention science in this? Well, we know a lot more about brain consciousness, and we know a lot more about altered states since research began in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s on meditation. Our understanding in Western science of consciousness has also improved by leaps and bounds. And we have, in the West and of course in the East, kind of moved away from the mind-body paradigm that was so prevalent from the Enlightenment age all the way up until really recently, this separation of consciousness from matter, of mind from body. And what was considered woo-woo and very new age thought in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, that mind and body are one, that body influences mind and mind influences body, not because of a bidirectional communication between these two separate entities, but because in fact, they're just one thing. There really can be no separation of consciousness from matter. It's all one. And again, that nowadays is pretty much accepted in neuroscience. But it really wasn't even 10 or 15 years ago. And there are many people in the very modern field of contemplative neuroscience who say that 10, 12 years ago, when they started working in contemplative neuroscience, they were considered kind of on the weird edge of understanding of consciousness. And now they're firmly in the center of what is kind of modern belief, that mind and body are one and the same. The yogis figured this out quite some time ago, and not only in India, but we saw it in China and other parts of the world as well. And the reason they figured this out is not necessarily because they were given any special powers by their various gods or goddesses or shamanic beliefs, but because this is core human biology. This is how humans are wired. And when you do certain things, you get certain results. We're all a little bit different because of our backgrounds and what we call our biography, because of the experiences we've been through. So some of us may progress on certain paths faster than others. For example, focusing techniques. Some of us are just wired a little bit better. And because of our upbringing, we are a little bit more able to focus, perhaps better than others. But all of these techniques can be trained. And they're trained by using the body, using the breath, using the mind to achieve the altered traits and altered states that Alex is talking about. And when we keep hitting these practices over and over, when we keep challenging our biology, and when we keep working with, let's say, refining or improving our nervous system and working with mind-body connection, that eventually one day we kind of knock on that door so often that the door opens and we've created a permanent state change. And this is the kind of self-realization that Natalia just asked about, or all the different words for realization, enlightenment, understanding, liberation that are talked about in the yoga classics. So in our 300-hour course, we have a healthy dose of science of spirituality, because now we know a lot more about the neurochemistry, neurobiology, and neuroelectricity that combines in a unique way to allow ourselves to go beyond ourselves, to allow our brain, and this is one of the magical aspects of our brain, it actually has the capability to go beyond mind. And that's one of the unsolved mysteries of why we humans have this ability, but we really do when we do certain things. And it doesn't always have to be meditation. It can be things like extreme ski jumping. It can be jumping out of an airplane with a small parachute tied to your back. All of these can be triggers for states of altered consciousness that over time that can then create a permanent state of or permanent change in your understanding of self and your understanding of environment. So in the 300-hour course, we give you the techniques to train these various aspects of consciousness, to train focus, and to train, let's say, insight, and then hopefully put you in states of slightly altered consciousness throughout the practice. And then over time, when you keep hitting at this door, as I've mentioned, then you get the permanent state changes. And again, it's not beyond any of us. There aren't people who are just born that are better at this. These all can be trained, and we all can get the results that are hinted at or promised in the yoga tradition. But the key is to train properly and trained under the guidance of people who have actually done it before, who have actually been there, who can help guide you along the path. And this is exactly what Alex and I hope to do in the 300-hour course, is give you kind of the guidance and the first steps into this very powerful practice and very powerful experience.
Thank you, Christian. Let's see, guys, if you have some questions, maybe. Yeah, we'll give you a minute. If you have something to ask about yoga, maybe about your personal practice, maybe about your teaching practice, whatever it is. Yeah, if not, I'll say a few more words about the course.
Hello, Alex.
Yes. Hello.
I ask something
Yes, please.
because I wrote it before as a question to you. And the question was if it's a kind of meditation teacher training. So you told me your 300-hour course is like a meditation teacher training. Yes, and you
Yes.
focus on, as you told us, on you focus on breathing and meditation as the main practices.
Yes, exactly. And also philosophy, because
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
as I explained, it really kind of helps things happen faster and in the right direction. Yeah, so this is the focus, and all breathing that we do is also part of meditative practice.
Okay, thank you.
I guess in a way we only call it a yoga teacher training because we have to, because of Yoga Alliance is our registering agent. But that's a very good point you make. Is we should actually just call it a meditation teacher training, because this is what we are leading up to over the 12 modules of the course. Is a meditative practice. And so even the breath work, adding visualization, adding mantra, adding bandhas to it, builds towards a meditative experience. And maybe we should just rename it 300-hour meditation teacher training.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about that now.
That's yeah.
And until I think Hatha Yoga Pradipika, yoga was a synonym of meditation. So we see it in texts and we see it in commentaries. Yoga is samadhi, samadhi is yoga, yoga is meditation. Yeah.
Alex, will there be any continuing beyond the 300-hour training?
We really want to do that, especially now when we start seeing results, and we're very happy. So I guess yes, we want to do some courses.
Yeah, I think we talked about the void practices, right? We talked about Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, and then breaking out void practices from that. Alex and I talked about that. Heart Sutra as a separate module, and discussing void practices from the Buddhist perspective. Now, Heart Sutra and Vijnana Bhairava Tantra are very much aligned in terms of core philosophy. And we also see the same things in early Taoism, actually predating the Tantra practices and, of course, the Heart Sutra. So I'm working now myself on a history of Taoism course that kind of shows where maybe some of the roots of the Indian Tantra maybe comes from. There's a lot of back and forth between the Indian scholars and the China scholars. But the advantage China has, and I've said this before in Zoom meetings, is the advantage China has is it wrote things in rocks, right? It carved stuff in stone, whereas India made the tragic mistake of writing things on papyrus and leaves and paper and linen. And so in the battle for who was first, unfortunately, we have rocks, but we don't have paper, right? It's the inevitable game of paper may cover the rock, rock, scissors, paper. But in terms of history, if it's carved in stone, it lasts forever. So we've lost a lot, of course, in India, just from time. These things degrade over time. And then, of course, there was a significant upheaval during the invasion of India and the Mughal dynasty there for some time. So anyway, this is something, Sheila, I'm working on now too. So there'll be maybe a Heart Sutra module, a void practice module, and maybe a little Taoist, just a knowledge module for people who want to go a little bit deeper into Taoism.
Thank
Do you
you.
anticipate, I'm sorry, do you anticipate the 300-hour course ever being in person or if in the future?
Oh, that's a very good question, Natalia, because I actually wanted to talk about that, but then I forgot. It's really impossible to deliver that amount of knowledge and to make you practice that much as we can do it through online training, right? Because due to simple reasons, it cannot be longer than, let's say, a month and a half or maybe 2 months. But 2 months is already a problem. Even in Thailand, you have to get some longer visas. You have to, pay much more, right? And be away from work, be away from like lots of reasons. So that's why teacher trainings are so short. And we of course would like to have it. And maybe one day we'll have ashram and you'll come for 6 months to immerse yourself in the authentic yoga practice. But for now, we think we need to continue online, and when there is a sort of community of graduates, then we can perhaps offer in-person, let's say, refresh modes or something to get together and to practice together, right? But even if we do it, next year or in 2 years in person, then there will still be a requirement to be in online program, because there is no really way to just put it into 1 month or even a month and a half.
Yeah, what's really cool about the online program, completely unexpected, because online programs are new to basically the entire yoga community since March of 2020, since COVID, and we were allowed to do fully online programs. I think it was April 2020 to be precise. But what's really cool about our program is that I think so far the fastest graduate has graduated in 8 months or 9 months. Sheila, you've been there a year now, right?
Yeah, I've been working on this practicum for at least the last 4 months.
Yeah. But the beauty,
It's having to put it online to actually send it. It just Yeah.
But Sheila, I think I was telling Alex at the beginning of this meeting, the good thing about having so much time to do a program like this is our students, when they get finished, the practicums are perfect. I have really nothing to comment other than amazing job.
Oh.
But there is I feel, Natalie, going back to your question, because I've taught I've taught 500-hour courses and a number of 300-hour courses that usually last 6 weeks, or the 500-hour course was 3 months long. And what you can get from those courses is you can certainly transmit the techniques. Students certainly can learn the techniques. But as Alex says, there's not the time to practice them with any kind of duration to even get past the very initial stages of, mastering the technique and then relaxing into it. So Alex made a very good point that even if we do future kind of, let's say, advanced workshops, they would be for people who have been through the 300-hour program. And then we really have, amazing chance to work together, because then we're all kind of coming together with significant experience in these practices and these experiential realms. And then it becomes more like guidance.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm noticing more and more that in-person trainings are more providing experience or yoga holiday experience or training experience, but not the actual training, right? Then you have to go back home and train it anyways. So then certificate should be given after 5-6 months when you go home and you train it for 5-6 months, and then you're getting a certificate. Then that would be more accurate, I guess.
I find the difference between this, doing it online, and doing the in-person, the 200 hours, say just the basic yoga teacher training. After doing 200 hours in that kind of environment where everything you do is based around yoga and asana, and everybody you talk to is involved in it, and there's a connection somehow. You come home to your regular life and it's culture shock. It's hard to immerse yourself back into the normal world. Whereas this is allowing you to work online, work on your own pace, but you're still going to work every day. You're still dealing with the people that are not in that environment. So it's not quite as, I don't know what the word would be. It's more integrative into real life.
That's interesting that you say that, because I mean, I haven't done the course yet, but I find that having just done online, when I go into my world of work and daily, I feel very isolated. I feel like I'm very alone, and it's almost I have to fight through this feeling of, am I the one that's a little out of it compared to the rest of the world? So I know I'm not, but it's a little more challenging. So that's why sometimes I guess you have to build your community where you are, and hopefully make it grow so that you don't feel isolated. So it's kind of, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
No, that always happens, Natalia. It's very natural. Like when you start moving in the right direction, this will be one of the signs. Because if you want to party and talk to more and more people, that it means you're not moving in that direction, right? Maybe the word right is not correct here, but when we talk about diving deeper into self-awareness, then, as Christian mentioned in the beginning, you really want to then kind of be more either on yourself or with like-minded people, right?
One last
Alex?
question. Is it all recordings? Are there live meetings at all? How does that work?
There are recordings for your everyday practice, and also offer weekly Zoom meetings, right? So usually it's Saturday, same time as today. Just today is Sunday, but just yesterday we had another meeting, and this is where we either just take your questions or maybe introduce new topics, right? Discuss things and something like that. And we also have a live chat in Telegram where we're answering questions like 24/7. Right, almost, yeah, because Christian gets up earlier, I go to bed later, so almost 24/7.
And there was another question.
Yeah, I also heard someone was going to.
I had exactly the same question as Nat. It was about the organization, and you told that there are weekly Zoom meetings, and I can start anytime I want. Is that right, with the program? And
Yeah.
then jump into the weekly Zoom meeting. So perhaps I start autumn or something like that, and that would be fine.
Yes, exactly. You can start any moment and join the Zoom meeting at any level, and that makes it even more beautiful because people can share experiences, right? So someone started earlier, someone started later, and we can share how we go, how practice feels.
And the program will run the whole next year. Is that right?
Well, we are allowed to certify you until December 2023, and we hope it will be extended, but for now it's until December of the next year. Yeah.
And sorry, a question. What is your, what's the English word? A kind of exam or something like that?
Yeah, we're having.
After,
Let me maybe share the screen, and I'll just show you a little bit.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, so here is the course page where you can read a little bit about the course, and then there is a manual preview. Right now we finished a really nice full color manual, and you can either download it online or you can even get it a hard copy sent by post in certain packages, which I'll show you very soon. Right, so here we offer a 13-page preview, which you can download and have a look. Then here there are, let's set it 3 sections, right? Modules 1-4, modules 5-8, and module 9-12. And so between these sections, we ask you to do a practicum. And it's either a video that you record yourself teaching a technique to an imagined group of students, or we ask you to maybe write a short essay on some topic, right? So there is one practicum here after module 4, one practicum after module 8, and one final practicum. And the course is happening in different modules that are also available in different packages. So let me show you first day-by-day format. It's where we designed daily practices for you so that you don't have to think what to focus on. You just choose day 1 and you just click play, and you see introductions, you see tutorial videos, you see practical videos, right? Then goes day 2, day 3, and so on and so forth, right? And there is also module format where you have all the tutorials and practical videos that are in module 1. They are all put together, and this is for people who prefer creating their own training progression during the day, right? So there are certain practices that you can choose whether you practice them, on Monday or Tuesday, and then you do something on Thursday and Friday. There is a core set of practices that we ask you to do every day, and also other additional practices. If you have time, then you add them, right? So then module 2, module 3, and once again after module 4 you are having practicum 1, right? And same practicum will be after module 8 and after module 12. So here also on the course page you can find small preview videos. They're very short, just to give you an idea. And if you want to have full access for 7 days, we offer free trial. So you just sign up, you'll get access for 7 days, and there is a free module designed for you to have first-hand experience. So you can see the quality of videos, see how we offer practices, and also some lectures as well, right? And this is a little bit about certification. We offer Yoga Alliance certification. And now a little bit about packages, right? So just recently, we are getting more and more requests to study with us, but people already have certificates. So they have 200-hour certificates and they don't want a 300-hour one, or they already have 300-hour or even 500-hour certificates, but they still want to learn, right? So we designed this so-called Jnana Pack for those who don't need certificate that offers lifetime access to pre-recorded course, right? So all the videos that I've just showed you and lectures, but there is no certificate and there is no contact with us, right? So no Telegram group and no Zoom meetings. So just for your personal practice. And also there are 3 packages. First one is called Sadaka, and it offers access to day-by-day module, which I just showed you. Then there is a Yogi Pack where you get access to a module format. And then there is more interaction with us in that module, right? You can read it on the course page. And finally, the Guru Pack, which is the most complete. And besides access and Zoom meetings and Telegram chat, we also offer a so-called teacher resource package where you can download all course content, right? So download lectures. You can also download lecture slides. So if you're gonna teach, like some of our students already teach and they use the slides for their classes, which is very helpful because it takes a lot of time to make proper slides for this kind of topics. And also we'll send you a full color manual by post. And besides this teacher package, then I also offer 2 one-on-one meditation alignment sessions in this package. And in these sessions, we try to find what doesn't work in your meditation and help you have a breakthrough. So today, for the webinar, we're very grateful that you came, and we want to offer a little discounts for you. And also it's anniversary of the course. We started just 1 year ago, so we're celebrating first anniversary. And that's how we designed the Jnana Pack as a sort of gift. And also for these 3 packages, you can get $100, $200, and $300 discounts, depending on the package that you choose, right? So here you can see those new discounted offers, and let's say they will be available for you until Wednesday. Yeah, if you decide to join us until Wednesday, you can apply with these discounts. Sheila, are you still doing day by day, or you're shifted to module format?
No, I started with module format, but I found day by day kept me on track better.
Mm-hmm.
It I don't know, it just laid it out easier for me. But if you don't have the time to finish what's in a day, then you use the other way and just do it as you get to it. The day by day one you can too, but you have to kind of go back into wherever you left off.
Yeah, so if you want to like a retreat mode, you just do day by day, or you have extra time. But if you're like busy with work or family, then module format is easier to choose and work with that.
When I
Yeah,
do
and
the
also
day-
with day by day, you don't have to finish all of like day one on day one, right? You could actually. I think the question you're asking is if you start in August, and now it's June. Well, the day by day format is just, it doesn't have dates. It just has day one, day two, day three, day four. So you can start any day, and then that's your day one. And you could actually spend a week doing day one. So instead of it's 99 days, I think. Instead of 99 days, you could make it 99 months, and you could do day one and spend a whole month doing that. So, or a whole week, yeah, as you wish.
Yeah, there's just one
when-
thing we ask you to stay in each module at least 7 days. That's the only thing we ask, right? Not just jump from one module to another, right? Yes, please. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
I'm sorry. When I do the day by day, it's kind of like I'm guided through the modules. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And I can take my time, as I told you now.
Yeah, so let's say we introduce a new practice, right? Heart meditation or Nadi Shodhana with visualization. And in module format, you will only have it once, just the practical video, right? And then you just should do it yourself every day. But in day by day format, you will get it every day so you can train it, right? So it will be same video. You just watch it on Monday, then you watch it on Tuesday and on Wednesday, right? And in module format, you just have it one time and you have to, use it as long as you need to master the technique. And when you feel you are good with it, then you can move to the next module, right? Something like that.
And I have to choose in the beginning if I want day by day or module format?
Well, it depends on the package, right? So if you get the first package, then you only get day by day, right? If you want the next one, then you can choose, you can change anytime. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and in the day by day, we've built in kind of the day by day is a training progression, so it has rest days built into it. And there are some days where you will, for example, you'll learn a technique, let's say on day 3, and then you'll practice it on day 3 for a little bit, but then on day 4 is when you practice it for longer. And so it's a very logical progression. I think since Sheila started the day by day, I've gone back recently last month and changed the progression. So it's a little more logical and there's a lot more rest built into it. So it's not overwhelming. So I made sure that every day was, I think, no more than 2 hours of content, between 90 minutes and just over 2 hours of content, so that, people that have real lives like we all do wouldn't be overwhelmed with 5 hours of content in one day. It's not like that. So try to keep something that's possible to do on a day-by-day format, or at the very most every 2 days you can complete one day.
So let's close the meeting. Thank you very much for coming today. Yeah, you can still send us questions via email if there are more questions. And yeah, we truly hope to see some of you in our program. yeah, in terms of discounts, you have 3 days to think about it, and maybe use the offer and start whenever you have time. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.